Well, let's get straight to the classic. It was last night at the MCG. Dan Houston covered himself in glory. The Bombers were very good for a very long period of this game.
Look at him mark it, Brown, and he says straight away, I'm going back, I'm having a shot. He turned his back. He had no thought of passing this football, and then with a wet ball from 55, he's had to kick it 60. Port Adelaide do a magnificent job of blocking it on the goal line, and they send it home. The second time they've won on the goal line this year. 7 wins by 14 points or less. And that was the goal of the year. No one is beating that.
You're happy with that for goal of the year? Because there's a couple of good ones. The Jamie Elliott one we'll look at later.
With the stakes that's on the line, 55, wet ball to win the game. I don't think anyone's beating that for goal.
I agree with you, Kane. I think the context of a match and how it's decided by someone with that and the leadership attached to the seizing of the moment and knowing there was only the 17 seconds left, that I'm with you. I think it is goal of the year and it won't be beaten.
We often pump up great players and what they do, and Dan Houston, well done. But what about the goal umpire? Perfect position, was in at about 12 players, had to hold his position and did very well.
Look at his face. Can we have another look at his face? He was in the perfect position, called it home, and then went upstairs just to make sure.
Look at him in there.
Look at his... you can't really see...
But that is a good effort to be under there. Have a look at him. Look at him. Perfect positioning.
Outstanding, Stevie.
No, I love it. And it's good to see the goal review system work too, because had it been a bit blurry or not on the right camera line, we would have had a problem there, but it all worked perfectly. The guy got it right, and so too did the review.
Lordo?
Nath, Brad Scott and the Bombers would be shattered losing that from the position they were in. I want to highlight how Collingwood have won 25 of their last 30 games, and so many of them have been tight ones. Here's Craig McRae talking about how they win tight ones. But this is them against round 19 against Melbourne last year. What they don't do, Collingwood, is they actually don't throw it on their boot and hack it out. They actually like to keep the ball in nice and close and tight. This went on for minutes where no player wants to kick the footy. They'd prefer to keep it in tight because you're not actually kicking it out to numbers. So that's how Collingwood have won so many tight. It's an art form. They've trained for this, the Magpies, and it's the reason they win tight ones. I want to now show where the Bombers got it wrong last night. So if we can go fast forward to last night. So they had 17 players, the Dons, in the defensive 50. So here's the stoppage. So you watch it. Nick Martin gets the footy. So it's on. They don't want to get pinged for holding the ball. So I understand this spot. But once Nick Martin grabs it and he boots his footy, you freeze it. I don't think you need that many players behind the ball because they're all doing the same thing. There's 17 of them there. Peter Wright is down here. What's he doing down there? So the only way they were going to score and have a shot for goal was Dan Houston in that spot. Also thought Peter Wright, he should potentially stand on the mark. Why wouldn't you get your tallest player to stand on the mark? I know Mason Cox is always someone that charges over and stands there. Jack in the box, get that extra height, but I reckon in hindsight, I know it's a wonderful thing, but they could have done it a bit better, the Bombers.
Good vision, Lordo.
Yeah, the opposition's always going to be set up behind the footy for that quick kick. So maybe Nick Martin, if he had his time again, just maybe a handball back towards the boundary where his numbers were, and they could have potentially caused another stoppage.
Was a ripping last quarter with many goals.
It was. They were outstanding. There were some big moments. We see Connor Rosie here. He's a player, a star of the future. They run onto one here, which looked like it could have been the sealer. 16
points at this stage.
16 points, and you think game over given the conditions in the game. Langford shoots out a handball there. Again, nice snap across the shoulder to Caldwell. And,
this guy's become a good player.
Yeah,
he's a great player.
He's leading their goal kicking this year. And again here, this looks like it could be the match winner here for Caldwell. Big kick, massive crowd. They celebrate like they've won the game, and then the moment here by Houston to go back 55 metres out in these conditions to win the game. I agree with Kane, this will not be beaten as the goal of the year.
Yeah, and there's the celebrations. What a year it's been for Ken Hinkley. 12 in a row. Hard to fathom what they have done after the pressure that he was under early on. What I noticed last night was their players prepared to take metres, and in those conditions, look at some of the high metres game players on the screen there. So Butters, 635. Rosie, every time he got it, just pumped it 50 metres down the line to get a contest. Farrell, Lordo's going to speak about when he does his votes a little bit later on, in Houston as well. So between those four, 2,275 metres gained in those conditions. I thought it was a terrific tactic. You lose your rundown, Steve.
Well, Nath actually threw to me for those last quarter goals, but on the run sheet it says Lordo, so I was a little bit surprised.
Top of the sheet, it says draft. On this one it says
Actually done it with a bomb, didn't he?
There was high drama before the game when Scotty Lycett was forced to take himself out of proceedings after a fitness test that was conducted as late as a fitness test has ever been conducted. And what that meant was that Dante Vicentini came in for his first game of AFL football, the 56 pick in the 2021 draft, a local Melbourne boy, didn't have family and friends there, was getting actually warmed up and actually strapped up as the game had already started. And look, he held his own under all those circumstances, didn't get a lot of it, but looked clean enough in the degrees he could do.
It is an issue for them, though, ongoing, and it's not one that's going to be solved this year because I'm not sure he's going to be quite up to it. As good a story as it is, and Finlayson was forced to go in there and does it pretty well, but doesn't want to be there for a full 4 quarters. Bryn Teakle is injured, so it's the only query you've got over Port Adelaide is the depth in their ruck stocks.
They lost the game, Brownie, but they've improved under Brad Scott, the Bombers. So they're just in every game. They were poor against Fremantle last week, but I think their season has been sensational for where they've come from, where they've been. You can't trust them, an inconsistent side, but they're travelling really well.
Just back on Langford, were you excited when you got a mention in the coverage last night?
I didn't. I was doing
Matthew
the game.
Lloyd type mark, he said.
Okay, who was that?
When Langford took the mark.
Yeah, I know. I wonder what commentator it was.
Alistair Nicholson.
Okay, good man.
You like that? Yeah,
Good
you like
man.
that?
Good man. Yeah.
Pay him later.
Of course he is.
He's been there for 9 years. He's become, I reckon, an overnight sensation.
Yeah, he's been great this year.
And he's
really good this year.
Extraordinary talent, I reckon.
Yep.